why not spend some time and try to help people? Because sometimes maybe it's like obvious insight from your side, and other people will just ignore it. But sometimes it could be like a kind of ignite the change within the company. And I'm not like saying like social change and change the world and so on. No, like the small change, like improve the better customer service or improve their profit margins by 2% and so on. And you don't need to expect anything to yourself. Like just do good.
And we're live. I'm here with Eimantas Miksys, one of the most creative and smart people I've worked with, like literally, who has launched, uh, I don't know how many businesses, I believe it's over 50, many of which were super successful, multi-million winners, has launched at a time thousands of A/B tests a month. He's the master of monetization, and I believe one of the inventors or originators of the quiz funnel. And he's a guy that when I first met him, he told me that he wants to slap me. And I'll explain this story because it's worth explaining, I think. I was invited at the time in Lithuania to the Kilo Health offices to give some like workshops there. And I was stressed. And I went out. I was like, oh, I'm stressed. And I was smoking. And he told me, hey, do you want me to slap you so that you stop being stressed? I was like, oh, who is this tough guy? But I digress. Eimantas, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Um, Hi, George. I think the hardest part is already over because you already pronounced my surname. So now you can just relax again. I'm not going to slap you. Over the time, I think I learned other methods how to help people to relax apart from slapping and so on. I think your description of myself is even way more impressive that I would actually how I
I
would
know.
describe
I
my
know
life.
you're a humble guy, so I
Uh,
thought I would just get it out of the way so that you don't need to worry about
I
that.
mean, I
I'll
like
do the bragging for
I
you.
like I like to brag sometimes, but you know, you kind of find like a description summary of over a couple of years, and you know, when you usually describe yourself, you use just your recent activities of like, hey, I am doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, right? And you mentioned like over the 50 businesses and so on, and it seems like it's already like 10 years ago, but it was like 2 years ago, I think when we launched the majority of the chunk of those businesses.
I think, like for me, the way I would describe you best, and we can talk about your background. You were a co-founder in Kilo Health. Now you have like other multiple other projects. But I think for me, the way I would describe you best is someone who knows business, doesn't like just talk about business. There's a lot of people that talk about business, but few people that have actually done what you've done. But tell us, like, how does your day to day look like now? I know you have like a lot of things. Maybe you don't want to talk about everything, but like, what do you do in your day to day?
I guess before I answer this question, you mentioned that I kind of think about monetization and so on, and I think this might be like a good description of how I see myself and how I actually evolved to the position where I am right now. Because I had a couple of the startups that failed, and I guess majority, uh, I guess the biggest problem why they failed was because they didn't have a proper and a good business model, and just because they couldn't actually get to the position where they uh, get a substantial income and let alone the profit. But I mean, even let's talk about income and about the scalability, about the potential, about the clients, and so on. When you kind of just think that your product is the best product and like the marketing and the user acquisition will follow later. That was my rookie mistake that I did within, I guess, the first couple of startups. And it was the hardware and the digital products and a mix of both. But I guess with my three first startups were like a flop, and majority of the time it was just because the business model wasn't there, or it was like a not experienced enough team. So therefore, fast forward to almost 2024, right? And I guess when this will be live, it's already 2024. So Happy New Year, everybody. But my day to day is mm, quite interesting. I would say let's skip these parts when you just wake up and you go to the shower or just to a toilet and then you go for a run and so on. But I would say that my each morning starts with trying to find the most important things for the
Yeah.
day, like to trying to prioritize my main task for each day. And usually when it's like a podcast or YouTube video, when you just and I'm like a huge massive fan of YouTube. I'm super
Yeah.
curious about all of those topics and so on. And I graduated from journalism, and I'm super curious about a lot of things. But when you just usually take a look at those podcasts or YouTube videos about productivity, about habits, about everything, there's like a lot of guys who actually tell you that well, you need to in order to be productive or in order to master efficiency, you need to prioritize your tasks. You need to do this, start each day or start each week with a prioritized list of things and so on. And it always looks like, oh my God, it's super easy, right? You just need to list down 10 things for the week. And sometimes I wake up and I have no fucking clue what to do. It's because at some point you have like a million of ideas what to do. And in on another case, like maybe none of your projects are currently like hitting the targets you want, right? And it kind of feels a little bit depressing, and at the same time, you'll feel like maybe you are just kind of like helpless, like limited, and you maybe lose a little bit of uh, self-confidence, and therefore your prioritization is always a little bit different. It's always like case by case, right? It depends on your mood, it depends on the results, and it depends on a lot of things. So I count myself like to, and there was um, like maybe 30-40% of my weeks when I can say like, okay, so I prioritized my stuff and everything went as planned. And like 60 to 70% it's always like case by case, and like each morning is a new battle, and you kind of try to find that the most important task. And like sometimes you just fail, and sometimes you just sit at the end of the day and you feel that you kind of failed because you did something, but you don't feel the progress. I am that guy who actually always wants to feel a progress, even if it's like incremental and very small.
I can relate to that. And I think a lot of people that actually, first of all, want to achieve and secondly, do achieve things can relate to that. This thing that you have to make progress. It's like a video game almost. But let's zoom out a little bit because you have a long story. I feel like I mentioned briefly you were one of the co-founders of Kilo Health, a very very successful company, the second fastest growing company in Europe at the time. Now you have your own projects. You've parted ways with Kilo. Those projects are also successful. But how did this happen? Like you mentioned that you had your own startups. Some of them failed. But like, what was your first, like your baby step in entrepreneurship? Like, what like was baby Eimantas thinking? Oh, I'm gonna be like a business owner. Like, how did you start? You mentioned journalism. Like how? How did it happen?
I mean, journalist was a little bit after my first few ventures. Let's call them ventures. But I was cleaning the staircase of our home, and there was I think 15 flat in our like a staircase, and each one I guess paid something around like €2 each month for me just to clean it like 4 times each month, so once a week. I guess that was like one of those first ventures that I had like to earn something to like to be able to go for like to a cinema or to have a good time with friends to go for a kebab or whatever, you know. I guess pita or gyros is like more example for you, right? And I guess the our venture that and it's also like venture that I had was cherry picking, quite literally cherry picking,
Really?
and yeah, my grandpa has like a country yard, like a small village area where he grows cherries, and usually during the summertime. Uh, there are some that you can collect and eat it by yourself, or you know, you can leave it for the birds, or you can just collect them and try to sell them. So that's what I did for I think at least one summer while we had those trees. We I was kind of waking up, asking for help from the grandpa, like to uh, grab me like a ladder and so on, so I can actually collect those cherries. And then he would take me to the larger city so I can actually sell those cherries. And I was quite successful at selling because you know, you always have advantage when you are selling and you're just like 14 years old. And there's like usually older people around you, and you're like trying to use your younger charm and so on. Like, hey, come to me, I'll give you a discount, and so on and so on. It's like
That's where you learned the tricks.
limited time offer, 15 minutes.
Ah,
I'm counting, you know. Nah, I mean, those rules apply to the digital world as well. But yeah, I guess those were like my first couple of ventures. Nothing like super, you know, like super interesting. I didn't create Facebook or whatever, and I wasn't hacking and so on. And uh, I guess one of my first passions, since I was like a curious kid, was journalism. Therefore, I went to study journalism, and before that, before I actually even go to study journalism, I went to the local newspaper and said like, hey, I have a free summer, and maybe you need some help, and I can take pictures and I can write articles, and maybe you'll like it. And they said, okay, so here are like two topics, go and cover them. And I did. And next thing you know, I'm kind of earning a decent amount of money just by working at the local newspaper. And it was really nice for me because I wouldn't say that I was like super extrovert. And I think there is always a point for me when I become like introvert, extrovert, but before that, I am the listener and the introvert. I try to read the environment and to understand what's going on there and who is who in the room.
with me, you
Um,
went straight to
so
slapping me though, so I guess like I made you feel very comfortable.
uh, I mean, I was already at Kilo before that, and you know, you kind of came to my environment then, so it was a little bit different. But when I go to the environment where I'm not very used to, it's you know, kind of I'm switching to the introvert mode, and I'm trying to listen a little bit more because usually, especially if it's like a little bit stressful station, I can just start going with the dad jokes, and that never goes well. And And yeah, that work at the local newspaper was super helpful for me to make that breakthrough to go and actually ask questions of the random people on the street, or even to the president of the Lithuania. And
Oh
it
wow.
was like, you are 17 years old and you are going to take an interview from the like president of the Lithuania. And that was one of those moments where I was like super scared. And but afterwards, I think my editor said that it was like a shitty interview and so on, and most likely it was. But I guess that interview, even if it wasn't like published in all and so on, and it was like heavily edited and so on, but I think it did for me more good than the harm. You know, I could go the other way and say like, "Oh, I'm such a loser," and so on. But I was kind of celebrating that part, that I was kind of like brave enough to start and to talk and so on. So I was kind of lucky that I had this kind of opportunity and I had this environment. But at the same time, I always tried to create those opportunities for me. And even if I never actually had like a proper job. Like my mother still thinks that I never had actually like a proper job, because I never applied to any position. In this case, I just went straight to the editorial room and said like, "Hi, this is me, and here are a couple of examples that I provided you, and so on," and prepared before that, right? Or next couple of the positions was when it was like a complete accidents. I was participating in some kind of contest about the winter, and there was a Lux Express company, and which is, I think, largest bus operators in Baltic states.
Oh
And
wow.
there was like a, I think they spent a lot of money on the contest, like to make snowmen and so on from different materials and etc. And there was only like three teams that participated, and there was like three places that actually could have won something. So basically, every team that participated won, and I remember I was just speaking to the Estonian guy, and I actually never, I didn't understand who he is at the time, and I was like, "This contest is a failure, and like there is only three teams here." And he's like, "Okay, so what would you do differently?" And I said like, "Okay, I would do this, I would do this, and maybe this." And he's like, "Okay, so here's my card," and he's like a CEO of the local branch and so on. Like, maybe we should talk. And I sent him like a A4 page of ideas, what I would do differently, and he is like, okay, let's go for the beer. And next thing you know, I kind of work for the company. So it was always like that.
Yeah.
I never kind of sending resumes, and I think that's the most that's the interesting part for me, like because when you see something that's not working right, and you kind of feel passionate about fixing it, that's when you actually start feeling about the purpose of your task, right, of your daily life, and of what you're going to do with the position.
I think like you said a lot of things, but I think some things that I just want to highlight
Unfortunately,
out of what you said is that like it pays to be trying a lot of different things.
of
It's
course.
good to be brave and like take like make your own luck basically, and then to not assume that just because something works, it works in the best way it can be. Like usually it can improve, and like if you think about it, you can probably find ways to improve it, even though smart people
Yeah,
maybe
and
maybe
even Yeah, and even the like large corporates fail, and I would say even like especially large corporates fail, and because they have so many of the processes and operations that they have to kind of play around and to make sure that
Yeah.
everything works perfectly, and they have a lot of customers and so on. There's a very highly possible, like very high probability that they'll fail. And once you find those areas there they are failing, I like brief example. My mother had a phone and it broke down, and she went to the operator that provided the phone, and decided like, yeah, we will replace him. Maybe we will not. We won't replace him, and so on. So there was like a situation that could actually be easily fixed, but it wasn't, and it was like a struggle. And for my mother, that actually like lasted for 3 or 4 weeks, like back and forth. Replace the phone? No, we won't replace the phone. We will fix it, and so on. So it was never like the clear procedure and the clear operation how to actually do that. And it was shitty customer experience. And
Yep.
I remember once again, I kind of just wrote a huge, very extensive LinkedIn message with the suggestions to the CEO of Bita, Bita
Really?
is like one of the operators in the Baltics as well, and he just replied like 1 week later that like apologies for all the inconvenience. Like very interesting to hear. Let's go and grab some martinis. And we went actually to
Really? Oh my
meet.
God.
Yeah, and we went to meet in Vilnius as well. And just kind of, like casually drank some martinis, and had a chat about what could be improved within their operations. And afterwards, he asked me to go to the Beta CMO and other like C-level staff and just write down my ideas and so on. And I guess couple of months later, they kind of launched the new initiative regarding the customer like support of those like replacements of mobile phone and guarantee services and so on. So I wouldn't say that it was like my impact, but at least they made it the right way, like to feel that they care, and at least I feel valued.
Clearly, something was unusual about you, though, because like not everybody texts the CEO and like gets for martinis with the CEO. So okay,
Yeah,
I,
but
I
but
under-
but it's not about like I didn't want like to get the job right there,
yeah,
or you know I'm like I think you're the same. Like you see the problem and it annoys
I
you,
am.
right?
Yeah, I am.
So why not spend some time and try to help people? Because sometimes maybe it's like obvious insight from your side, and other people will just ignore it. But sometimes it could be like a kind of ignite the change within the company. And I'm not like saying like social change and change the world and so on. No, like the small change, like improve the better customer service or improve their profit margins by 2% and so on. And
Yeah.
you don't need to expect anything to yourself. Like just do good.
How did you go from like doing all of those things to like eventually like not just joining but like founding or starting, I guess, Kilo, but also like growing Kilo to the point where it had like 600 people in like I believe like 2 years. It happened like very quickly. And
I
like
didn't start Kilo myself, right?
yeah,
Just to clarify around that, I joined Tadas and Vitas, who were like the founders of the Kilo, and we wanted to actually build a very different project on the blockchain and so on. But then the crypto winter came, and the blockchain, all the blockchain and ICO projects failed. So we actually were had the project that was already prepared, but we never launched it. And after that, it was a couple of months period where we just were okay. So what to do next? And there was a local Kilo LT, the project for weight management, and it was okay. I would say like for the local digital business, it was like very good. and even in the beginning, it was founded like 10 years ago from now on, and it was successful, but it was never that big, right? You know, it was never in the like tens of millions of euros of revenue per
Something
year.
happened after a point, clearly, like because it blew up suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, there was one time then we started like doing di like launching different projects, and I think there was one of the founders, like Tadas, he noticed that there was a like huge demand around one diet. And that there is like one project that is already doing that, and we decided that okay, we can definitely do that and very fast. So we kind of made the hackathon of like 40 hours, I would say, and it was live. And we made a celebration, a little party and so on. And we kind of just, I wouldn't say forgot, but maybe we were a little bit too drunk to realize that once we launched the project, within the first 2 hours, we got the sale because we left back to home and we were kind of disappointed that there was a traffic. And you know, when you launch something in Lithuania, you just get like 100 euros budget for the AdWords, and you just wait for a month to spend those 100 euros. And for the States, it's a little bit different. You know, you can spend it like instantly, and especially if there's like a huge demand. And it was exactly the case there. It was like 5 minutes after the launch, there was like 30 people online, real time. And we were kind of checking that and playing around, but we never actually noticed that there was a sale. And I guess it grew a little bit by like bit by bit, and uh, I guess
Not
next thing
not
you
bit by bit,
know,
but like
after
yeah.
a lot by a lot, but
Yeah.
yeah, next thing you know, within a couple of weeks, we launched another one, and it's also successful. Then we kind of, I guess, developed some projects that wasn't like super successful, somewhere in between, but also next couple of projects are super successful again. And I guess out of 10 projects that we launched on that same quiz model. It was, I guess, at least 4 or 5 of them are still up today and still successful and made a lot of money. But yeah, later on when we started like scaling on other ideas, on other markets, other niches, and so on, that percentage of success from like initially launching the project and to actually building a team around it and hiring the CEO and so on, it definitely dropped. But sometimes in most of the cases, I still believe in those ideas that flopped. I just believe that we weren't patient enough to kind of iterate. And you also have to think about the resources that you have in hand. And maybe you have like 10 ideas, and only one of them will be like a super successful. Maybe there could be like a three of them super successful. But if you will find them only like in 3 years, maybe it will better to be it could be better like to find like one super successful idea, but within the 3 months, right? Not to wait for 3 years to find three successful ideas. So it's always about like fast iteration and like taking decisions kind of instantly. And for a lot of people who actually care about confidence rates of their A/B tests and so on, it could sound like a nightmare, and because it's only gut feeling. There's no science behind it. It's the gut feeling that was trained over the period of 4 or 5 years, and if there's a niche in the market and you see that there's a competitors doing good, and if you feel that their metrics are correct, because sometimes similar webs or even the meta ads libraries, sometimes they just show you not the best info and not the most useful info. So if your gut feeling tells you that you need to push for it and iterate more, I'm kind of now in a position where I can spend like 6 months on the project, right?
Yeah.
And for 3, 4 years ago, we were on that approach where we just, okay, so there's like a 2, 3 weeks for the project. If it doesn't work, like jump on another one and so on. But maybe I'm just a little bit older, maybe a little bit
No,
wiser
you've seen a
right
lot
now.
basically. I think you've
Yeah,
seen a lot. So
I think I think that with the right approach and with the right uh, messaging angles and so on, you can make a lot of projects work. And
yeah,
even if those who are currently like unsuccessful and unprofitable, it's always just the question if there is actually a return on your effort, right?
yeah.
And if there is if there is a possible return on your effort, and if there is a like a market huge enough, maybe you should go for it. But if market is like super small, like Lithuanian market, I would never like put a lot of effort here and just spend like 3 years on developing something that you're never sure if it will roll out and work well.
I think I know you a little bit by now. Like we've met in person a few times, etc. And I think you are
You definitely
like
know me.
a little bit of a pirate, I would say. Like you're not like the guy that would wear a suit, like that would be like proper, etc. So like how did you experience like all of this growth? Because I assume that like when it was like you five guys like doing the hackathon, as you said, like it's a very different story than when you have like 600 people and like managers that manage managers, like all of that. How did all of that go? Like was it like a cultural
I think
shock?
I think I was lucky that I was already I went through that period where I felt that I am important enough to wear a suit when I was like 20 years old. And it was like very early stages of my entrepreneurship, and I was the CEO of the one-man company, and we were like building drones and so on. And I felt like super important. I will always wear the suit, and I think after like 6 months, I realized that it's bullshit. And afterwards, I only wear the suit only to the weddings or to the funerals, right? In most of the cases, or maybe like celebrate New Year's. Yeah, there are a couple of exceptions to that rule, but in most of the cases, my ego, I think, had the right lesson that I'm not the most important and I'm not like super genius and I don't have to show and prove to anyone anything, right? And I mean, it's definitely a fact that beautiful people have easier life and they get things easier. But it's definitely also a fact that you can feel more happy if you are just comfortable in your own skin, right?
Yep.
And if you just feel like natural and so on. And I'm quite happy with my Patagonia hoodies and other stuff. And I wouldn't say that I would never wear a suit and so on. I like nice things and I like nice shoes and so on. And I have a couple of like those luxury brands that I own, right? But it's not like to show off. It
Yeah.
was really it was really nice, and if I feel that the thing is nice and I want it, I'll just take it in some rare occasions. But I guess getting back to your question, I think. the cultural shock was very, very significant because
Okay.
at first we were building a company that we like people were was like the number one thing, right, that we cared, and we kind of participated in most of the interviews, in hiring interviews, and there was always that question, like, would you like to sit to along with that person into like on the transatlantic flight of 12 hours and so on? Would you like to sit next to that person? And you
That's a
would
good
think
question.
twice. You would think twice, right, before hiring people, and I guess the first 100 people that we hired were really like that core that we uh, kind of like cemented with our culture, like our vision, and how we knew a lot of things about each other because we actually spend more time uh, outside of the work, not only on the working side, but like from on the like I would even say that 24/7 we will spend time in the office, right? But
Yeah.
the half of the time was our like free time, and we will go to uh, organize the parties. We will go to watch like movies. We will go to like we kind of became friends, right? With that the core of like 100 people, and to be honest, right now I think that the 50 people team is like the perfect size of the team, that you can actually know a lot of things about them, and you can actually be responsible personally for selecting and cherry picking all the talents that work with you. And I think the most important thing that motivates me to this day to wake up and to do things is that you know that you are the one who is responsible for selecting people around you. And that's my biggest motivation actually right now. And
Creating an
I guess
environment that you like.
yeah, actually, and I really believe that this is why some people and very smart people fail and or stay without actually like expressing themselves, unleashing their powers and whatever. But yeah, creating environment is like super important for me, and that was like very important in the beginning of Kilo. Um I'm pretty sure you also experienced it yourself, even when the company grew to the 600 or 700 people. The environment and the people, it was also like important, and it was always in the presentations and so on. But I feel that we really did good on building like the first 100 people. Later
Yeah.
on, we just had the a necessity to hire fast, and with that, it's limited market, right? You can actually find like 10,000, 20,000 of working professionals in the area,
Yeah.
and there's like five, six, seven, eight companies that can offer like some position, some experienced people in some certain positions, and in some cases we even had to actually like build academies for CRO,
Yeah.
conversion rate optimization, and other areas, just because there wasn't any of the professionals working in those specific areas and positions.
What's
So
the
I think, yeah,
please?
just to wrap it up, right? I think after like 200 people, I personally feel that we kind of lost control a little bit
Yeah.
of the company, of the vision maybe, or of whatever where everything is going. And that's maybe my completely personal take, and maybe other people will like feel completely differently. But I just realized that it was a time when we had a lot of transitions, not only within the company but also within ourselves. we had to go through from the players, basically ourselves, let's say in like a basketball metaphors, right? We had to go from the players to the coaches who actually are trying to play, and then back to the coaches, right? Because as a coach, you're kind of still, as like a young coach and an inexperienced coach, you still want to go to the chord and to kind of play yourself because it's easier and you know how to do that, and you think that this is the shortcut, this is the way to do it, and you're kind of annoyed on the people who are not experienced enough, or they have like different vision and ideas on things like that are like very straightforward for you. So you have to learn as an experienced manager a lot as well, and that was, I think, one of the biggest transformations of the Kilo, because the majority of the people of that core, it was their first C-level positions,
Yeah.
and they kind of grew within the company, and I think that's the case with a lot of companies who actually experience the hyper growth. But at some point you need to understand that those ideas that you are kind of creating how to solve the problems of the growth, they are already there for like 200 years. Like you can just read the book of Toyota and the lean and all those methodologies, and you kind of get the same conclusions, even if you just were thinking that, guys, let's create a new company which is like completely innovative, and we'll create our own processes, and our company will never be like any other company, right? But then you kind of start creating the process after process after process. You kind of innovate on some point, and then eventually you end up with the lean methodology of the book that was written like 30 years ago, right? I mean, it definitely works. So in some cases, you need to actually just listen to the people who are way more experienced and have seen a lot. And at some point, you, of course, your naivety and your braveness and your creativity can just improve those things a little bit, like not innovate maybe in a different way, but improve it.
I guess it's like this saying that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like you don't need to invent the wheel again if the wheel exists. You can just put the
Yeah,
wheel to good use.
of
What
course.
what what is, if you have like something specific in mind, of course, like what's kind of like the number one thing that you feel like you've learned through all of this process? Because not a lot of people go through this process. By the way, we did not say that, but I think it is worth saying that all of this was bootstrapped. There were no investors. Like the company like earned its growth, which is a very rare thing these days. Everybody like grow, but they grow with other people's money. So it's a rare thing actually. So what's like the one thing that you learned? It can be about business, it can be about yourself, about people, like anything.
I'm not sure, but basically a lot of things that I kind of talked about today, they are kind of insights and outcomes, what actually comes after that hyper growth, and everything from like don't reinvent the wheel even if you want to, right, to building the team and the core of the people that you feel that motivates you and drives you, are my lessons and my key intakes that I kind of realized out of that. But I guess if there's one thing that I still believe it's very true from even from those like days when I was like 14 years old, and like to this day after we experienced that hyper growth and we're kind of building a new company and so on, it's like the curiosity is like one of those main things that drives people, and that drives entrepreneurship, and that drives creativity, that drives a lot of things. Like just be curious and don't be afraid sometimes, like to ask those questions and so on. So I think um, that I just proven myself over time and over time and over time that curiosity is one of those things that, at least for me, is like super important.
I think
And
you
out of
are.
that, I guess, comes a lot of other things like creativity, ownership, and etc. That you're kind of looking for in other people, right? And You mentioned already that I'm kind of like creative person, right? And
Yeah.
in most of the cases, I wouldn't call myself like super creative, but I think, or at least people around me wouldn't call me like a super creative because I'm sometimes like the process guy, right? Or business model guy or monetization guy, and the numbers guys usually don't seem to be like a creative guys, right? But here you go. I can actually draw you like a wireframe and so on. But or just pick other industries examples and apply them to your product. But I think one of those main core core like mm, core things that you're looking into the people that you want to be around is like their creativity, but not like for their job, right? Like for creativity for ad design or like UX design, it's boring stuff. But creativity to solve problems, I would say, like finding those workarounds and finding those like how to go around those obstacles and so on is like one of the most important things that kind of motivates me to learn more about that person. If I know that he will be able to uh, come up with a solution, come up with an idea, right? And afterwards, I think this is one of those mm, points that defines the entrepreneurs, right? Especially in the beginning, it's like the curiosity and the creativity to find the solution to the problems. This is what helps you to come up with some kind of like solutions uh, and to kind of uh, just take the baby steps in the beginning, right, to the right direction.
But do you think this is something you develop or something that you're born with? Because, like, if we take a look at your example, like you were young and you were like texting CEOs on LinkedIn and like or Twitter or whatever channel you said, and like telling them, "Hey, like this is how you can improve your business." Like you had this from a very young age. It's not something that you learn.
But I had to overcome this. I had to challenge myself to actually learn to do this, right? To learn the curiosity. Like, sorry about that. Let's get that part. Like, can you repeat the question? Because like 10% of the battery left, and
No
on
worries.
my phone.
We will cut this. No worries. What I was saying is that
Just
it seems to me like this is something that you don't necessarily develop, but something that you're kind of born with in a sense. And we can see this in your example where you were young and you were like without having that much experience, you were texting CEOs on LinkedIn and telling them, hey, like this is how you can improve your company. So this curiosity, this kind of like desire to improve and fix things and like find better ways to do things, like you had it from the start, I think.
um, I guess yes and no, both. I had to overcome this by challenging myself. You have to find yourself like a courage and to go and interview the president, or you have to find the courage to speak publicly in front of your class, right? And I guess this is all about training your brains and to your like brain muscles. I'm not like a neuroscientific guy. I'm not like your Huberman protocol guy, but I would say that at least from what I know and what I feel, that is the right thing to do is to train your like a mental toughness and your decision making process always by kind of challenging yourself. And that's why I'm kind of running, it's because I don't I'm not like a super passionate runner, and I will never be like Olympic runner and so on. But it's the thing that I think that I can do like in most of the days, even against my own will sometimes, especially when it's raining and it's windy and you don't have like enough of motivation. But that's the thing I will still go and do because I know that it's not necessarily be like the thing that will gain me like new muscles and like look amazing, but it will be the thing that will develop my like self-discipline, and I'll just uh, come. I think I'll just come back for another day a little bit stronger, and will make that incremental change by just showing up again and again and again, and being consistent. And I think that the same things applies to your like creative efforts and creative training, to your curiosity training, to your everything. Like our brains are uh, like uh, uh, like modeling, right? You can just train them to be like any way you like, and it's neuroelasticity. I think that's how it's called. But we can actually develop ourselves to be at least a little bit better than we were like last year, and so on, in terms of those um, creative or curiosity things and so on. I think it's just like another habit that you might want to develop. Uh, the only difference is that it's not that clear. Like, when you want to lose weight, you need to like change your nutrition and move more or go to the gym. In this case, it's not that clear like which path you take. Like, should I read more, or should I start drawing, or whatever? But I think in majority of the cases, it's like do everything you enjoy, and
Yep.
just try to like I like writing, but and I hate theater. I hate ballet. I hate opera. I hate galleries, but I'll try to go as often as possible whenever my girlfriend invites me, because I know that those areas will sometimes open up new horizons for me. And I could actually just look at a random painting of whatever the famous author is, and sometimes I could just find like a new business model inside that painting, which is like about the old woman, and so on, or about the war or whatever.
It's always the girlfriends that takes us to the galleries.
That's
We
why we
never
need
go
to
on our own.
choose that's why we need to choose the right girlfriends who who opens up our horizons that we wouldn't otherwise experience, right?
True, true, true. I wanted to ask you, like, why did you start prioritizing like running, etc.? But you answered this, like, I think, in a very, very, very good way. Emantas,
Yeah,
what?
like everybody runs today, right? Everybody's doing those marathons and Ironmans. At least I'm happy to be in that environment where a lot of people, it seems to be on and like endurance sports environment. I think endurance is one of those endurance sports are always like about discipline, what I mentioned before, and it doesn't matter if it's like running or, but it's like all the triathlons and so on. What are you doing for a prolonged time? It kind of opens up you like a new perspectives as well, and you learn new things about yourself when you're doing constantly the same action for like 5, 6, 7 hours. And I think that's the same thing that with the creativity in the shower or in the toilet, because usually you're just doing action that doesn't require for you to think about it. Like pooping doesn't require you thinking about pooping, right? Or showering yourself. It's like natural, like instinct. And therefore your brain opens up to new ideas, like starts thinking, some coming up with the new ideas. Yeah, right. And I think the same thing happens while when you're running. It kind of becomes like repetitive. Your brain opens up like for meditation, and then you also start to coming up with new perspectives.
What is the best way for people to contact you at the moment? Like, how can people
Uh,
find you?
I guess LinkedIn, and maybe my email, which is like name and surname at gmail.com, and that's simple as
How
that.
original. Okay. Well,
Yeah, like I didn't develop anything new.
let's wrap up perhaps by asking this. If you could like send one message, it's like your message to the universe, right? Like how would you like to kind of like close the episode? Like what would you like to be the last takeaway for people that might listen this?
For
It can be
fuck's
something
sake, George,
inspiring.
that's super hard. That's super hard. Like that's how you open up, not like end. uh, let's. I think I talked about this like for a long time, but maybe that's how you should also wrap up. I think Steve Jobs said like stay hungry, stay foolish, right? In his
Mm.
one of those the most I guess iconic commencement speeches. And I'm like nowhere near the Steve Jobs, and I'm not pretending to be that guy. But I believe that was very simple truth that you have to be open always for new ideas, be curious, therefore, right, and just kind of stay humble, enjoy the life, and yeah, play around. It never hurts to play around and ask questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's going to be like an amazing story for our children when this podcast will grow to like tens of millions of like people, and we can just spoke to this particular moment and say like, look how it started.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.